This is David Weiss, your board game concierge here at 401 Games, and this week's Smorgasboard game is Mariposas, published by AEG and designed by Elizabeth Hargrave. She's a relatively new designer on the scene. You may have heard of her previous design, a little game called WIngspan that came out last year. WIngspan was an engine building game, beautifully illustrated, about birds, which is not a topic that is very common in tabletop, especially one with any ornithological exactitude. So WIngspan got a lot of attention that normally wouldn't go to a board game from people outside the hobby, and brought a lot of new people in. But its very success guaranteed that Hargrave's next design would get a lot of attention, which is great, but maybe a little hard to live up to. So let's look inside the box and see if Mariposas is the game for you. In Mariposas, players control groups of monarch butterflies. The actual collective noun for butterflies is flights. So you control a flight of butterflies migrating over the course of a single year. In the spring, they fly north from Michoacan, and then by autumn, they return back there. But no one butterfly lives long enough to survive the entire trip. The game plays out in 3 rounds: spring, summer, and fall, with brief pauses in between for scoring and a little bit of housekeeping. And then there is final scoring after the fall season. So the board represents a hexagonal map of the eastern and some of the midwestern parts of North America, from Mexico to just north of the Canadian border. It's nice to see Toronto and Quebec City and Winnipeg on a map, always. So each player begins with a single first-generation butterfly. You can tell it's first generation because it's got a little 1 on it, which is blurry right now. Come on, focus, focus, focus. There we go. First generation butterfly. And then on your turn, you are going to play one of 2 action cards from your hand. So these will let you move either a single butterfly a certain number of spaces or multiple butterflies. You can use these cards to move the same butterfly twice, but you cannot split up one of these over 2 butterflies. In the spring, you'll play 4 cards each before the scoring. In summer, 5 cards each, and in fall, 6 cards each. Wherever your butterfly lands, so let's say I land there, you will take the corresponding flower counter and keep it. Usually, if you land on a flower space, that is, you will take the flower counter. Be careful though, because these 2 types are different, but they're kind of easy to confuse. I wish they had I realize they chose them because they're realistic, but they're easy to confuse if you look too quickly. Now, if you land on a way space, then you will get a special reward, which I'll talk about in a second. If you land next to a milkweed icon, which is always at the intersection of 3 hexagons, then you can cash in a certain number of flower tokens to breed a next-gen butterfly in the space that you just landed in with that butterfly. So if I land with my 1 green butterfly, and I have the tokens to cash in, and the number of tokens it requires goes up as the game goes on and the butterflies get older, then you would then spawn a 2 butterfly on top of that, which you can then use that same round. You want to breed for a bunch of different reasons. 1, the more butterflies you have on the board, the more choices you have in terms of scoring. 2, older generations die out as the game goes on. So after the spring, your one butterfly, your original guy, is going to die out. After summer, all your second generation butterflies will die out. And 3, if you can get a 4th generation butterfly back to Michoacan, then you will score bonus points. And the more of them that you get back, the more you can score. So you can rack up some pretty big endgame points there. The first few butterflies you spawn come from the ones here that are on top of the summer and fall scoring cards, which start the game face down. And that's a neat incentive for players to breed as well, because then that gives you a chance to look ahead and to see how you're going to score. If not, they automatically turn over when we get to the appropriate season. Now, these cities are called waypoints, and at the beginning of the game, you randomly put these tokens face down on them. If you're the first player, say, to land in Houston, you turn it over, and you will get the reward. So in the case of Houston, you would then get this life cycle card, which is worth a point at the end of the game. But if you collect a whole set of 4 different ones of the same color, you will get a special bonus, which come from the tiles that are randomly put here. So in the case of the green ones, in this case, you would then get 2 special way station cards of your choice, which are not only these cards, but the other kind of rewards you can get are, just find one, there are special action cards. So they can be very useful. So if you land at Lawrence, Kansas, you can pick this card up, which is a one-time buff move of 2 bonus movement points. So they're really useful, but you only can ever get each bonus once per game. You can only ever get each life cycle card once per game. So knowing when to use them is one of the hard decisions you have to make in Mariposas. If you are the first person to turn over the way station token, you get to roll this pretty die and get a bonus flower token. If you get this one, you can get one of your choice, which can be very useful. Scoring between seasons is brief and depends, again, on the scoring cards, which are unique and randomly determined at the beginning of the game. The first one is always visible, so to give you sort of a short-term thing to aim for. The others turn over as the game goes on. So scoring is usually geographic. So in this case, for example, if you have a butterfly on a yellow space, an orange space, and a green space, you'll get 4 points. Or if you have at least 2 butterflies and you have no butterflies south of Atlanta, which is quite hard, by the way, to get done in only 4 moves, but it is doable, then you will get 4 points. The scoring requirements get harder as the game goes on. So here, for instance, you have to have 3 butterflies and none of them south of Richmond, which is halfway up the board. Or if you have 2 that are completely west of Lawrence, you get 2 per butterfly west of Lawrence, or 2 per butterfly on the East Coast, and so on and so forth. The only endgame scoring comes from the life cycle cards that you collect during the game, the colored ones, they're each worth a point, and a rising bonus for getting 4th gen butterflies back down here, which is not easy to do, let me tell you. So, is Mariposas the game for you? Well, in music, people talk about that difficult second album, the album that comes out after the hugely successful debut. How do you follow that up? Is Hargrave's career trajectory going to be someone like Adele or Lauryn Hill? So let me let you in on a little secret. I thought Wingspan was a fine, solidly designed game, and I was really happy that it did so well and got a lot of attention. Anything that brings new people into the hobby is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. But frankly, Wingspan did not excite me. aside from the theme, there wasn't really all that much there that was original about it. So I was really interested to see what Hargrave was up to and where she was going to go next design-wise. And I'm happy to say that, as far as I'm concerned, Mariposas is a much more interesting game. You've only got 15 turns to get across the board and spread out and collect as many life cycle cards and bonuses as possible, and then race back down to Mexico. But how you do that and where you go, what your path will be, is going to be different every game because of the randomness of the waypoints, the scoring cards, and the life cycle bonuses, let alone the action cards that you draw. That randomness may frustrate some people. I mean, it frustrated me a bit. But I have faith, based on the few times that I've played, that Hargrave has balanced the game so as to reward the player who makes the best of what they get. Once again, with Mariposas, we have a unique theme which manages to gamify the subject of butterfly migration, which is really original, and there's just enough science there to be satisfying to lepidopterists without burdening the gameplay with a lot of Chrome special rules. And if anything, I think the game is more approachable and teachable than Wingspan, because there's not as much reading to do and decoding of icons and so on and so forth. Because in Wingspan, every bird had special powers, and I don't know. This I think is almost a gateway game. The graphic design, once again, is really well done, and the rules are well done. The only nitpick I have are that two of the flowers are a little bit samey, so they can be easily confused, so you have to watch out for those. Other than that, Mariposas is much more of a 21 than whatever the heck Lauryn Hill has been up to for the last 2 decades, unfortunately. So, if you are interested, click on the link below to order your copy of Mariposas. And this is David Weiss, your board game concierge here at 401 Games. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.